In the middle of the party, she announced, "We're having a baby." I raised a toast to the real father, played the recording of her betrayal, and walked out while her world shattered in front of everyone. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. I'm 32 years old, and I work as an industrial safety inspector. I spend my days walking through manufacturing plants, checking if machines have the right guards, if chemicals are stored according to regulations, if emergency exits are correctly marked. My job consists of assessing risks, identifying hazards, documenting, and mitigating them. It turns out those skills also serve quite well inside marriage. My wife, Kale, is 29 years old and works as a purchasing coordinator at a medium-sized distribution company. 2 weeks ago, she told me with tears in her eyes and holding a positive test that she was pregnant. She hugged me. She said we were finally going to start a family, that it was the beginning of our new life. I hugged her. I answered what a happy man is supposed to say. I smiled as if I'd just received the best news in the world. But the truth is I already knew she was lying. 3 months ago, I got home earlier than expected after an inspection. Kale was in the shower, and her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I wasn't looking for anything, it was just there. The email tab was open. I saw a message thread between her and Tyler, a coworker. At first, they were professional emails, then flirting, then explicit messages. I didn't confront her. In industrial safety, you don't act without evidence. First, you document the incident. I took screenshots of everything. I installed recovery software on our shared iCloud account, completely legal, because we're both on the family plan. I recovered deleted messages she thought were gone forever. The affair had been going on for 7 months. Tyler wasn't a simple colleague. He was her direct supervisor. Weekday hotels, supposed overtime at the office, the new perfume, the phone with a passcode. Everything started to make sense. I recorded everything as if it were a technical report. There's no immediate pain here, there's method. The fact that he doesn't confront her and prefers to collect evidence reveals a personality oriented towards control and strategic preparation, not emotional catharsis. There's also a disturbing component. He turns intimacy into a file, dehumanizing the relationship and transforming the betrayal into a case to document. Then, 2 weeks ago, I found a pregnancy test box in the bathroom trash. Positive. I did the math. We'd barely been intimate in months, maybe twice in the last 4. The timeline didn't add up. Still, I didn't say anything. I waited. The wait is almost clinical. He doesn't react with jealousy or desperation, but with calculation. This type of self-control can be interpreted as strength, but also as a form of emotional coldness that was already present before the conflict. He's postponing the explosion because he wants it to be surgical, not impulsive. Last week, I got definitive confirmation. A month earlier, I'd placed a voice-activated recorder in her car. Legal in our state because it's shared property. I checked the files every few days. Mostly it was boring traffic conversations or routine calls, but last Tuesday, I struck gold. Kale was on the phone with Tyler. I listened to the whole conversation sitting in my truck before going inside. She said, "I told Tyler it's his, but I'm going to put my husband's name on all the documents so there are no questions. He'll never notice. We just have to be careful until the baby is born. Then we'll see what to do." I sat there for 20 minutes listening to the audio 3 times. I made backups on my phone, on the cloud, and on a USB drive. Then I went inside, kissed her, and asked how her day was. She didn't suspect a thing. The contrast between what he hears and how he acts afterwards is disturbing. Do you see someone who's already decided to expose publicly? This shows an extreme capacity for compartmentalization, almost sociopathic in appearance, where planned revenge replaces any need for immediate confrontation or emotional processing. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. I showed him the messages, emails, hotel receipts, and the recording. He leaned back in his chair and whistled. "You have a very solid case. Infidelity and paternity fraud. If she files documents listing you as the father knowing you aren't, this is a textbook case." I asked him what I should do. "Don't show your cards. Make her believe everything is normal. We'll file the lawsuit first, but we won't serve the papers until you decide. The more comfortable she is, the more mistakes she'll make." I filed the lawsuit on Wednesday. The documents are ready. I'm just waiting for the right moment. That moment is tomorrow. You see, Kale's sister, Breon, organized a pregnancy announcement barbecue this Saturday. A big backyard party. Over 40 people, both families, friends, some co-workers. Kale planned it all and then pretended it was a surprise for me. She wants a spectacle, attention, social validation. She plans to stand in front of everyone and announce the pregnancy as if it were a wonderful milestone to turn the lie into something public and irreversible. She thinks she's trapping me, but I'm a safety inspector. I specialize in controlled detonations. All week I've acted like the excited future father. I talked about colors for the nursery. I looked at cribs online. She completely bought it. Last night, during dinner, she took my hand and said, "I can't believe we're doing this." I squeezed her hand. Me neither. This morning, I woke up to Kale humming in the kitchen while making potato salad for the party. Hair tied in a messy bun, wearing one of my old t-shirts. She looked happy, relaxed. My phone vibrated. Message from Breon. All set. See you at 2. This is going to be very special. Kale doesn't know Breon texted me. She also doesn't know I've coordinated with her to make the moment perfect. I showered. I put on my best shirt. The blue one Kale always said brought out my eyes. I checked the audio file. Ready to play. 3 backup copies. I looked in a mirror and practiced once more what I'd say. Calm, direct, emotionless. Kale poked her head into the bathroom. You're almost ready. We have to leave in 20 minutes. Yes, I'm almost done. She smiled. Kissed me on the cheek. Today is going to be perfect. I smiled back and texted my lawyer. It's showtime. We arrived at Breon's house at 2:15 p.m. The driveway was full of parked cars. You could hear music and laughter from the backyard before we even got out of the car. Kale grabbed the potato salad from the back seat. God, I hope I made enough. It's going to be fine, I told her. She held my hand as we walked up the driveway. Her palm was warm, excited. I let her hold it. The backyard was exactly what you expect from a pregnancy announcement party. String lights crossing the space, folding tables full of food, a grill smoking in a corner, kids running around with water guns. There were at least 40 people, maybe more. Kale's mother saw us first. Deborah came running with tears in her eyes. Sweetie, she hugged Kale and then me. I'm so proud of you guys. I nodded. Thank you, Deborah. My parents were near the drink table. My father raised his beer in my direction. I called him 3 days earlier. I didn't give him details. I just told him Saturday would get ugly and to be prepared. He didn't ask anything. He said he'd be there. Kale started greeting everyone, touching her stomach every few minutes. Laughing, receiving hugs. She introduced me as if it were the first time someone saw me. My amazing husband, the best partner I could ask for. We're so excited. I acted, smiled, shook hands, let her squeeze my arm. Breon pulled me aside around 3. Are you okay? You seem tense. I'm fine. She watched me. Kale is very happy. This means a lot to her. Yes, I answered. I know. An hour passed. I ate a burger. I talked sports with Kale's uncle. I watched her pose for photos with her friends, all touching her belly as if it were already visible. My phone vibrated. Message from my lawyer, all recorded and ready on my end. If necessary. Good luck. I put the phone in my pocket. At 4 in the afternoon, Kale moved to the center of the yard. Breon handed her a glass of sparkling cider, not champagne. The music was still playing in the background as Kale gently tapped the glass with a fork. The yard fell silent. The kids stopped running. The adults turned their heads. Hi, everyone. Her voice was bright, steady, perfectly rehearsed. She thanked everyone for being there. She said it meant a lot to us. She looked at me and reached out her hand. I walked over to her and stood by her side. We have some incredible news to share. She paused dramatically. She smiled. We're going to have a baby. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, applause, tears. Her mother burst into tears. People came over to hug us, to congratulate us. Someone popped a real champagne bottle somewhere in the yard. Kale squeezed my hand, her eyes full of tears. We did it, she whispered. I squeezed back, but then let go of her hand. I raised my own glass, a half-finished beer. People were still celebrating, but Kale looked at me confused, wondering why I wasn't hugging her. Before cutting the cake, I said loud enough to cut through the noise. I have something to add. The yard fell silent again. Her smile faltered slightly. A toast. I continued raising the glass to Tyler, her co-worker, the real father. The silence was total, heavy, suffocating. Kale's face lost all color. What? What are you saying? I pulled out my phone. Let me show you something. I played the audio. It was heard with absolute clarity. I told Tyler it's his, but I'm going to put my husband's name on everything, so there are no questions. He's never going to find out. We just have to be careful until the baby is born. Someone dropped a glass. The sound of breaking glass echoed in the yard. Kale lunged for my phone, but I pulled it away. That isn't real. She babbled. I looked directly at her. I have timestamps, messages, hotel receipts. 7 months of a relationship with your boss. Breon's mouth hung open. Deborah looked about to pass out. I turned to the guests. She got pregnant and decided to put my name on all the documents. She tried to trap me into raising another man's child. Kale tried to grab my arm. I pulled away. You forged paternity documents. You lied to me. You dragged me into this thinking I'd never find out. Her father stared at her. Kale, is this true? She started crying, but it wasn't sadness, it was panic. She cried desperately. Can we talk about it, please? There's nothing left to talk about. I put the phone away. The divorce papers are already filed. They'll be served to you on Monday. The house is mine. The car is mine. You're on your own. Please. She looked at me, trying to get closer again. I looked at the crowd one last time. I'm sorry for ruining the party, but everyone deserves to know the truth. I headed for the side gate. Behind me, chaos erupted. Screams, sobs, Breon yelling at her, people arguing. My father caught up to me at the gate. Do you need anything? I'm fine. He nodded. We'll call you later. I started the truck. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls, messages, notifications. I put on silent. In the rearview mirror, I saw the yard full of people in groups. Kale slumped in a chair, her mother trying to comfort her. Deborah shaking her head. Near where Kale had stood, a broken champagne glass. The sparkling cider spilled among the glass. I put it in first gear and didn't look back. Public exposure is a calculated social execution. He turns the humiliation he was going to suffer into an inverted weapon using the same stage she designed. There's a cold, almost theatrical justice, but also a clear desire for narrative control. He doesn't just end the relationship. He redefines the story in front of everyone, fixing roles of guilty and victim with no possibility of reply. I drove to Cody's house, a construction foreman I worked with for years. Good guy. Doesn't ask unnecessary questions. I'd sent him a message the day before. I need your couch Saturday night. I'll explain later. He opened the door with a beer in his hand. That bad. He didn't push. He gave me the bottle and pointed to the couch. You know where everything is. I sat down and checked my phone. 37 missed calls, over 60 messages. Kale begging me to come back, asking to talk, saying she was sorry. I blocked her. The messages stopped. Breon wrote later. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. She says you misunderstood, but nobody believes her. Mom won't even look at her. I didn't reply. My mother wrote, your father and I are here. If you need anything, you did what you had to do. I sent her a thumbs up. Cody came back with pizza. Are you going to tell me what happened? I gave him the short version. The infidelity, the pregnancy, the revelation at the barbecue. He whistled. That was brutal. She tried to trap me into raising someone else's kid. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you destroyed her in front of everyone. She wanted a public announcement. She got it. He nodded while chewing pizza. And now what? Now I make sure Tyler pays too. At 8 p.m. my phone rang. An unknown number. You're Kale's husband, a nervous male voice. Who's speaking, Dill? I was at the barbecue. I work with Kale, but in another department. I called Tyler to tell him what happened. He's panicking. He called Kale like 10 times, but she isn't answering. He paused. I just wanted you to know. Tyler is also married, has kids. This is going to destroy his life. That's the idea. He hung up Cody. Looked at me. Tyler still didn't know officially. Now he did. At 9 p.m., I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I opened Tyler's Facebook profile. His privacy settings were a mess, so it didn't take long to find his wife. Hazel. 2 kids, both under 10. The profile picture showed the whole family on the beach smiling, as if everything were perfect. I opened a new email account, an anonymous one I'd created the week before. I started typing bluntly. "You don't know me, but your husband has been having an affair with my wife for 7 months. She's pregnant with his child. I've attached proof. You deserve to know the truth." I attached everything: text messages, emails, hotel receipts, even the audio recording. I left the cursor hovering over the send button for about 5 seconds. Then I clicked. At 10 p.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello," your mother said, a furious male voice. It was Tyler. "That's an interesting way to start a conversation," I replied, leaning back on the couch. "You destroyed her in front of everyone. What the hell is wrong with you?" I settled in calmly. "What's wrong with me? You got another man's wife pregnant and expected me to raise your child." She told me she was going to solve it by committing fraud, registering me as the father. Silence on the other end of the line. "You're her supervisor, Tyler. You violated company policy. You knew exactly what you were doing. This didn't have to end like this." "Yes, it did," I replied. "You made your choice. She made hers. Now you both face the consequences." It was a heavier pause. "My wife is losing her mind. She got an email. It was me," I said without hesitation. More silence. "You're garbage. Garbage for not wanting to raise your kid or for exposing 2 cheaters. Which part makes me the villain?" He hung up. Cody was watching from the kitchen. It was Tyler. "Yes. Do you think he'll do something stupid? He probably already did." Around midnight, I received a message from an unknown number. "I'm Ashley, Tyler's wife. Thank you for sending me that." He left. I told him to leave. "I'll file for divorce on Monday." I stared at the screen for a minute before replying. "I'm sorry you're going through this. You didn't deserve it." She replied immediately. "Neither did you." I slept like I hadn't in months. No nightmares, no anxiety, just silence. On Sunday, I stayed at Cody's watching football and ignoring the phone. Kale tried to call me from several numbers. I didn't answer. Brianne texted asking if I was okay. I told her yes. That night, my lawyer sent me an email. The documents will be served tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'll also send all the evidence to her company's HR department. Supervisor-subordinate relationship. They'll have to investigate. I replied with a single word. Perfect. The word perfect encapsulates his entire moral stance. There's no ambiguity, no visible internal conflict. To him, the legal and corporate system is an extension of his will, machinery he activates without guilt. There's an almost religious faith in institutional logic as a form of personal justice. On Monday, I woke up early, showered and dressed like any other workday. Cody handed me coffee. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." "What's next now?" "Now I go to work. Let the system do what it has to do." Kale gets served the divorce papers and then gets called into HR. "Cold," I said. I shrugged. She made her choices. I just make sure they have consequences. My phone vibrated. Message from my lawyer. Documents served. Signed at 8:04 a.m. HR. Receive the evidence at 8 a.m. Both will be called in today. I put my phone away, grabbed my keys, and left. "Are you going to be okay?" Cody asked. "Better than okay. What if she shows up at your work? Security knows her face. She won't get past the lobby." I started my truck. Same face in the mirror, same man, but lighter. For me, it was all over. For them, it was just beginning. The phrase, same man, but lighter, suggests the marriage was a burden rather than a bond. There's no mourning, only functional relief. It also reveals an emotional disconnection. He doesn't perceive himself as someone who lost something, but as someone who got rid of an operational problem. Monday passed normally. I inspected a textile plant. I checked lockout, tagout procedures, fall protection equipment. I wrote up a few violations. Nothing out of the ordinary. I didn't think about Kale until lunch. At 12:30, my lawyer called. She was officially served. HR confirmed they received everything. They have separate meetings this afternoon. Standard protocol. Good. Another thing. Kale tried to call your office 3 times this morning. Don't answer, I won't. I hung up and went back to work. At 3 p.m., Dylan, the guy who'd called me Saturday, texted me from another number. Seth and Tyler were called into HR. The whole building is talking about what you sent them. I didn't reply. He wrote again. Tyler came out pale. Left the building. Kale is still in, and I put my phone away. Here you see a total inversion of the moral focus. Others' suffering becomes logistical info, not emotional. The fact that he ignores the messages and continues his routine indicates he's already dehumanized them, transforming them into variables within a process he no longer feels as personal. On Tuesday morning, my lawyer called again. Tyler was suspended. Investigation ongoing, and Kale also suspended without pay. Suspended or fired. For now, suspended, but I spoke with an employment law specialist. Supervisor-subordinate relationship with evidence like yours is usually automatic termination. They use corporate emails and met during work hours. It's a legal nightmare for the company. How long until they're fired? Probably before the weekend. HR is just completing the process, and she isn't contesting the divorce. I think she knows she has no leverage. On Wednesday, Kale showed up at my work. She was in the parking lot, on the way to my truck. When I saw her car, she got out. Deep dark circles, messy hair. She looked like she hadn't slept. Please, she said, just 5 minutes. I don't need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You lied, you cheated, you tried to trap me. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. This was planned. You and Tyler talked about it. I have the recording. She took a step closer. I know I ruined everything, but we can still. Kale, stop. I unlocked the truck. We're done. You'll receive the rest of the divorce paperwork soon. Sign it and move on. I have nowhere to go. That isn't my problem. I got into the vehicle. She stood crying on the pavement as I drove away. I drove without looking back, but in the rearview mirror, I saw she was still standing there, motionless at the parking lot entrance. She wasn't moving. She wasn't picking up her phone. She wasn't doing anything, just watching me leave, as if hoping at some point I'd change my mind and turn around. I didn't. I accelerated a bit more and disappeared into traffic. This is the human breaking point. She appears vulnerable, undone, and he maintains the contractual logic. The phrase "it isn't my problem" crystallizes the rupture of the moral bond. There's no marriage or residual compassion here anymore, just an absolute limit that redefines who deserves empathy and who doesn't. Thursday afternoon. The sky was gray, heavy, as if even the weather were aligned with everything that was happening. Dylan sent me a message again, bluntly, without additional context. Tyler was fired this morning. He walked out with a box under his arm, and it looks like Kale will be fired tomorrow. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, feeling neither satisfaction nor surprise. I took a screenshot without saying anything else. I sent it to my lawyer without adding comments, without explanations. He already knew everything. Minutes later, he replied, "Perfect. This will make the divorce even cleaner." I read the message several times. I didn't celebrate. I felt no immediate relief, just a cold and logical sensation that the pieces were falling exactly where they should. The absence of pleasure or guilt is key. He doesn't enjoy the other's fall, but he doesn't regret it either. His emotional world seems governed by efficiency and order, not by poetic justice. It's an engineering ethic applied to human relations, where clean matters more than human. On Friday at 11 a.m., my phone rang. It was Brianne. I hesitated to answer. Part of me wanted to ignore her, let the past disintegrate on its own, but in the end I answered, "Hello." "Hi." Her voice sounded tired, exhausted, as if she'd slept poorly. "I wanted you to know Kale was fired today." She called me crying. "I understand. She's asking if she can stay with me." I told her no. "Good." There was an uncomfortable pause, one of those where you know the other person is trying to find the right words for something that is no kind version. I know she ruined everything, but she's still my sister, and she tried to ruin my life. I replied bluntly, "I'm not the villain here, Brianne. I know. I'm not saying that. She's just lost everything. She made her choices. She knew what she was doing. I know. I just wanted to tell you I think you did the right thing. Mom and Dad aren't talking to her either. I didn't ask them to do that. You didn't have to. Everyone saw what she did." We hung up without saying goodbye. There was nothing more to say. That night, I went back to Cody's apartment to get the rest of my things. The place smelled like cold pizza and cheap detergent. He handed me a beer without saying anything, as if he knew talking too much would ruin the moment. How does it feel? He asked. How does what feel? Watching their whole world collapse. I thought for a moment. I took a sip. I let the alcohol burn my throat before answering. Honestly, nothing. I don't feel happy or guilty. I just feel done. Cody raised an eyebrow. That sounds pretty healthy. My phone vibrated. An email from the lawyer. Subject: expedited agreement. I opened it. Kale's lawyer had contacted mine. She wanted to speed up the divorce. Total division of assets in my favor. The house, the car, the savings, the retirement fund. No alimony. She'd also sign a paternity waiver, accepting I'm not the father. No custody, no claims, no future lawsuits. My lawyer added a brief, cold note. She was probably broke, unemployed, and didn't want a legal battle she couldn't afford. I replied, I'll be there Monday. Cody looked over my shoulder, whistled softly. Wow, she's giving you everything. She has no choice. She committed fraud. She cheated with her boss. She has no legal leverage. Still, it's a clean break. That's what it's about. I finished the beer, grabbed my bag, and stood up. You going home? Yes, it's time to start packing her things. Saturday morning, I was at the townhouse. The house still smelled like her. Her shampoo, her perfume, her mess. Her clothes were still in the closet, her toiletries in the bathroom, her shoes lined up as if they were part of a life that still existed. I spent the day packing it all. I did it methodically, fold, wrap, label. Not out of kindness, but for efficiency. Every garment was just an object, every drawer a task. At 6 in the afternoon, when I was almost done, someone knocked on the door. I opened it. It was Kale. She looked worse than Wednesday. Sweatpants, oversized hoodie, hair tied up carelessly, no makeup. She looked smaller, more tired, as if someone had turned off the version of her I knew. I came for my things, she said quietly. I'm packing them. Can you pick them up next week? Can I come in for a moment? Just to grab some personal things. Like what? My laptop, personal things. I stepped aside. You have 10 minutes. She walked in like a ghost, moving through the rooms, grabbing the laptop, the charger, some clothes. Her steps were slow, almost careful, as if she were afraid of breaking something invisible. She stopped in the living room and looked around. This place feels different. I'm painting next week. She nodded with wet eyes, as if that sentence were a confirmation she no longer belonged there. I really loved you. I didn't answer. I know you don't believe me, but I did. I ruined everything. Kale, your 10 minutes are almost up. She grabbed her things and headed for the door. She stopped as if she wanted to say something else, as if she needed one last line of dialogue that wouldn't change anything. The baby is due in March, in case you wanted to know. I don't. She shivered and left. I closed the door, locked it, and went back to packing as if nothing had happened. The scene is almost clinical. She enters as a vestige of the past. He manages it as a pending task. The 10-minute time limit isn't just practical, it's symbolic. It marks that her presence no longer has emotional weight, only logistical. The pregnancy is no longer a bridge, it's noise. On Sunday night, my lawyer confirmed the appointment for Monday at 10. After this, you'll be free. Clean slate. I read the email, sitting on my couch. My couch, in my house, in my life. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 7 months, everything was quiet. No lies, no secrets, no acting, no hidden agendas. Just me, my thoughts, and a house that finally felt like mine. I slept better than I had in years. Here the house stops being a shared space and becomes an extension of the self. The silence isn't emptiness, it's property. The narrative turns legal territorial control into a form of healing, almost as if material stability replaced any pending emotional mourning. On Monday, I arrived at the lawyer's office at 9:45. The receptionist offered me coffee. I accepted. I needed something warm to keep my hands busy. My lawyer, Mark, impeccable suit, rigid posture, was waiting for me in the conference room with the documents spread out on the table as if they were pieces on chessboard. This is as clean as it gets. He said she accepted everything. I reviewed the papers. The house was mine, the car mine, her debts remained hers, the savings and retirement fund mine, no alimony, Infidelity clause activated, paternity waiver signed, no custody, no support, nothing legally tying her to me. She already signed, I asked. This morning her lawyer brought it an hour ago. So fast. She's broke, unemployed, living with a friend. Her family won't take her in. She knows she'd lose if this dragged out. I signed where he pointed. 5 minutes. That was it. A marriage tossed in the time it takes to sign a credit card receipt. The state requires a 30-day waiting period. Then it's official. The judge will approve it, no problem. You're free. I left the building. Kale was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against her car. Same clothes from Saturday, different hoodie, arms crossed as if the world were too cold. You signed. Yes, can we talk just 5 minutes? I stopped. Not for her, but out of habit. There's nothing to say. I know. I ruined everything. You didn't ruin anything. It was calculated. You planned to trap me into raising Tyler's kid. That isn't a mistake. Her voice cracked. I didn't know what else to do. You could have been honest. You could have left first. You could have done anything but lie for 7 months and commit fraud. I was scared. I don't care. I unlocked my truck without looking back. You made your choice. Now live with it. She looked at me desperately. I don't even have a job. What am I supposed to do? Where am I going to go? I watched her in silence. Truly, I watched her. There was nothing left of the confident, radiant woman I'd seen at the barbecue weeks ago. Now she looked empty, broken, as if everything she'd built had collapsed all at once. But I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything. You should have thought about that before sleeping with your boss, I told her coldly. Before getting pregnant, before trying to pass that kid off as mine. I got into the truck while she collapsed on the sidewalk, crying. I started it up and drove off without looking back. The total absence of compassion here isn't just revenge. It's an ideological statement. Individual responsibility as supreme law. Kale appears as a moral warning, not as a person in crisis. The story reinforces an ethic where error is paid for with total expulsion from the human circle. Over the following weeks, news reached me unasked. Dylan sent me messages with updates, not because I asked for them, but because he seemed convinced I was interested. Tyler lost the house in the divorce. He was now paying child support for his 2 kids and working in a warehouse. Kale had gotten a part-time job at a Target store. Dylan told me he saw her there, that she looked bad, exhausted, aged before her time. I didn't reply to any of it. Breon called me once. The baby shower was officially canceled. Mom returned all the deposits. Okay, I replied emotionlessly. Kale tried to contact Tyler, but he refused to talk to her. According to Dylan, he said she'd ruined his life. Actually, both had destroyed their own lives. 3 months later, the baby was born. I knew because I received an email from Mark. The court had ordered a paternity test, and the results were attached. I opened the PDF. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. Tyler R. Hoffman was the biological father. Below, Mark wrote, "You're officially in the clear. No financial responsibilities. You're free." I printed the document, filed it, and closed that chapter. A week later, an envelope arrived with no return address. I recognized Kale's handwriting. I was about to throw it away without opening it, but I didn't. I sat on the couch and read it. It said she knew I'd never forgive her, that she didn't deserve it, but she needed me to know she destroyed the best thing in her life. She admitted she'd been selfish, that she thought she could get away with it. Tyler wasn't speaking to her. Her family barely tolerated her. She was raising the baby alone and could barely pay rent. She said she wasn't asking for help, that she just wanted to apologize and wish me to find someone who'd treat me the way she never did. I read it twice, then folded it, walked to the kitchen, and threw it in the trash. I felt no vengeance. I felt no satisfaction. I was just done with all of it. The letter functions as a last attempt to recover humanity, but is discarded as residue from the past. The gesture of throwing it away without answering solidifies the narrative of absolute closure. There's no redemption, no dialogue, no rebuilding, just a new identity built on the elimination of the previous bond. My phone vibrated. It was Mark. Final hearing scheduled for next Friday at 9 a.m. The judge will sign off. It's a formality. After that, you'll be completely free. I replied, I'll be there. I looked at my townhouse. Freshly painted walls, new furniture, everything placed exactly how I wanted. It felt truly mine. I grabbed a beer, sat on the back porch, and watched the sunset. Silence, peace, no lies, no acting, no emotional traps. Just me. For the first time in years, that was enough. On Friday, I woke up early, showered, and put on a suit, not because it was mandatory, but because it made me feel good. Today was the final day. Cody texted me, "Today's the day, right?" All good. All good. Call me later. Let's get drinks. I drove to the courthouse. I arrived early. Went through security. Took the elevator to the third floor. Mark was waiting outside the courtroom. "Ready, let's finish this." The courtroom was smaller than I imagined. Kale was in the back row alone. She didn't even look up when I walked in. Her court-appointed lawyer looked exhausted. The judge entered at 9:02, read the file without looking at us. "I've reviewed the agreement." She said the petitioner retains all marital assets. No alimony is awarded. The paternity test confirms no biological relationship exists with a minor. There are no custody or support obligations. Any objections? "No, Your Honor," Mark replied. Kale's lawyer shook his head. She didn't say anything. The judge signed the documents and banged the gavel. "The marriage is dissolved effective immediately." 47 seconds. That was it. Mark shook my hand. "Congratulations. You're officially a free man." I walked past Kale. She looked up as if she wanted to say something. I kept walking outside. The sun was too bright. I took a deep breath. Mark came out behind me. And now what? Nothing. Normal life. He said goodbye and left. I sat in my truck and texted Kobe. "Done. Drinks tonight." 6 months later, I was sitting on my back patio with new furniture and a new grill watching a game on my phone. I'd been promoted to senior inspector. Better pay, more responsibility. When you aren't emotionally manipulated all the time, your performance improves. I completely renovated the house. It felt like a new place. I started dating Jay, an architect I met at work. Nothing serious, no pressure. She knew everything and didn't judge me. My parents came over every few weeks. Normal life. I hadn't heard anything from Kale in 5 months. Brianne told me she was still working in retail, raising the kid alone. Tyler saw the baby twice a month and paid the bare minimum. I didn't feel guilty. Jay texted me, "Dinner tomorrow." "Sure." 7:30, I smiled. A year ago, I was about to detonate my marriage in front of 40 people. Now I was grilling a steak in peace. Some people asked me if I regret exposing her publicly. No, she tried to trap me with fraud. She made calculated decisions for 7 months. I just made sure there were consequences. When she announced the pregnancy in that backyard, I ended it right there. She wanted a public moment. She got it, just not the way she planned. I don't feel triumphant. I feel free. I turned off the lights. Locked the door. My house, my life, my rules. I'm not the man who was cheated on. I'm not the man who exposed his wife. I'm just me. And that's exactly who I want to be. I slept easily. Thank you for making it to the end.